The other day I stumbled upon a post claiming to list the top Excel functions for data analysts. I disagreed with half the functions listed in that post, so I did a search and I found a load more posts with pretty much the same list. They probably copied each other. In this video, I'm going to try and right those wrongs by introducing you to what I know are the top functions for data analysts and the functions that you don't need to worry about learning so much. I'll cover an example for each function, and then I'm going to point you to tutorials where you can dive deeper with more examples. There's also an Excel file that you can download from the link in the video description with all the examples in this video and more, and links to more tutorials, so you can use it as a resource. Let's start with the IF function, which enables you to perform a logical test and then return one of two results, depending on the outcome of the logical test. For example, let's say we want to classify these items as due or not due. An item becomes due 90 days after the loan date. Now the IF formula takes three arguments: the logical test, the result if the logical test is true, and the result if the logical test is false. Therefore, the formula is if today's date, and we can use the today function to dynamically return today's date, minus the loan date is greater than or equal to 90, then the loan is due. And we can return the text due. Now it's in double quotes because it's text. If you were returning a number here, you'd just enter the number without the double quotes. Otherwise, let's return blank, as denoted by two double quotes. Alternatively, you could enter some text in here like not due, and then close parentheses on if. I've entered mine in a table, so it copies the formula down the table automatically. Alright, that's a quick example of using a single if formula. Let's take a look at nested ifs. Nested ifs allow you to handle more logical tests and return different results accordingly. For example, let's say loan items greater than 90 days old are classified as overdue, items equal to 90 days old are classified as due, and items less than 90 days old are classified as not due. So the formula is if, and again we're going to use today to dynamically return today's date, minus the loan date is greater than 90, then it's overdue. And then in the value of false argument, we simply enter another if. And our logical test again is if today's date minus the loan date is equal to 90, then it's due. And then if that's false, then everything else must be not due. Now I need to close my parentheses twice, once for each if, and you can see the results. Now it's essential with nested ifs that you get the order of the logical tests correct, because as soon as a logical test returns true, the formula stops evaluating. It's not so much of an issue with this formula, but it's a common mistake I see people make, and they wonder why their formulas only return the first result. If you have Excel 2019 or onward, or a Microsoft 365 license, then you have access to the new and easier to use IFS function. The IFS function simplifies nesting ifs. For example, we can write the same formula in groups of logical tests, and then the result if true. So my first logical test is again using the today function minus the loan date, and if that's greater than 90, then it's overdue. Then instead of writing another if, we just enter the next logical test, which is if today's date minus the loan date equals 90, then it's due. And lastly, because there's no value of false argument in the ifs function, we skip the last logical test and simply enter true. And the last value, if true, is the value we want returned in the event of the previous logical test returning false. In this case, we want it to return the text not due. Now I should point out that just like the nested ifs formulas, ifs also stops evaluating once a logical test evaluates to true. So remember to get your logical tests in the correct order. For more on the if functions and common mistakes people make, see the link in the video description for my comprehensive tutorial. The next step up from if formulas is to use the AND function or OR function in your criteria arguments. Let's look at that next. We'll start with the AND function, which belongs to the logic family of functions. It's useful when you have multiple conditions that must be met. For example, taking the data here, we could test to see if the TV personality is popular and if they earn less than 100k. And if both tests are true, they get a bonus. So to write the formula, we start with if, and the logical test is going to use and. This is going to allow us to insert multiple logical tests. The first one is whether they're popular, so whether this cell equals yes. The second one is whether the salary, and we just need to get to that field, is less than 100. Close parentheses on and. If both of those are true, then it's going to take the salary and times it by 10%. Otherwise, they get no bonus. Close parentheses on if. And you can see Iggle Piggle, Macca Packa, and Mr. Maker all get bonuses. The OR function is useful when you're happy if one or another condition is met. For example, taking the data here, which is the same as we just looked at, we could test to see if the TV personality is popular or if they earn less than 100k. That is, as long as either test is met, they get a bonus. So again, starting with if, and then the logical test, we're going to use OR, and we're checking whether they're popular or if the salary is less than 100k. Close parentheses. Now, of course, you could add more logical tests if you want to. In this example, I only need 2. Now, if either of these is true, then we're going to take 10% of their salary as the bonus. Otherwise, they get no bonus. Close parentheses. And you can see everyone except Spider-Man gets a bonus. Now, of course, you can write nested if formulas that use both and or criteria. If you're struggling to write if formulas, we've written an if formula builder tool that will build if formulas for you, and you can download it from the link in the video description. The SUMIFS function enables you to sum cells where they meet one or more criteria. Taking the data here, let's say I want to sum the totals where the region is the region in cell D15, and the builder is the builder listed in column E. So let's take a look. Sum ifs. The range we want to sum is the total. Let's F4 to absolute that. The first criteria range is the region, and again F4 to absolute the references. And the region is this one here, F4 that as well. And this is just so when we copy it down, it stays locked on those cells. The next criteria is the builder range, F4 to absolute, and the builder for the first formula is this one here, and I'm not going to absolute that because I want it to move down to the next row as I copy it down. We can continue to add more criteria. In this case, I only have 2. Close parentheses, and that's my sum if. If we copy it down, you can see both Doug and Brian have sales in the central region. Now I can use my drop-down list here to choose a different region. You can see Dave is the only builder with sales in the East region and the North region, Brian in the South, and Larry in the West region. So as you may have noticed with sum ifs, all criteria must be met for the formula to include the values in the sum. Now if you require all criteria, then you can use the SUMPRODUCT function, and I'll put a link to a tutorial on SUMPRODUCT in the video description. Well, now that you know how to use SUMIFS, you'll find the other ifs functions like COUNTIFs, AVERAGEIFs, MINIFs, and MAXIFs easy because they all use the same syntax, so give them a try too. XLOOKUP is the new improved version of VLOOKUP, which is available in Excel 2021 and 365. Now, if you don't have one of these versions of Excel, then you can use VLOOKUP or index and match, which I'll cover next. XLOOKUP enables you to look up a value in a list and return a value from a corresponding column. For example, I can look up the value gloves in cell F7 in the product column here and return the sales amount from this column here. So you can see it's really easy to use. Now there's a lot more to XLOOKUP, including all the optional arguments, which I didn't cover. I've included a link in the video description to a comprehensive tutorial on XLOOKUP. I also explain why it's better than VLOOKUP. So I encourage you to watch it and start using XLOOKUP in your own work. Now, if you don't have XLOOKUP, you can do the same lookup using VLOOKUP. So again, we're going to look up gloves in this range of cells here. The column that I want returned is the sales column, which is the second column in the range I selected. And I want an exact match, so we want false. You can see it returns the same amount. Now there are some issues with VLOOKUP that are fixed with the XLOOKUP function. So if you have Excel 2021 or 365, then you should ditch VLOOKUP for XLOOKUP. A more robust formula option available to those who don't have XLOOKUP is index and match. The match function finds the row containing the value you want to look up, and index returns the value or range of values. So if we just take a look at match, we want to, let's say, look up the value Ben10 in this range of cells here, and we want to find an exact match, which is 0. Close parentheses, and it returns 3. So it's telling me that Ben10 is on the third row of the range of cells that I selected, and we can see it is there. Match can also look up horizontally, so if we want to look up the region in this row here, and again we want an exact match, you can see it finds south as the 4th column. And then to replicate the VLOOKUP behavior, we can use index to look up this table, and we want to find Ben10, which is on the 3rd row, and we want the 4th column for the south region. You can see there it returns 125. Now, a better way to write this is, rather than referencing other cells, we can actually nest the match function inside of index. So let's say I want to match Ben10 in this column here, and I want an exact match. And then for the column number, I want to match south in this row here, and I want an exact match. Close parentheses on match, close it on index, and there's my result. And now if I change the program selected, my index and match formula automatically updates. Now if there's one function that you should really take the time to learn, it's the index function. It can do way more than the lookups I've shown you here, and in my opinion it is the most useful function in Excel. Now I've recorded a video on 5 things most people don't know about index, which you can see at the link in the video description. The next lookup function I want to show you is filter, and this is available in Excel 2021 and 365. With filter, we can reference a range of cells and return the rows or columns that match criteria that we specify. For example, let's say I want to extract the sales records from this table. We start with filter, I want to place them here, and I want to filter this range of cells, and I want to include the department where it equals sales. And if it can't find any departments called sales, I want it to return no records. It's just text that I've entered in there. Press enter and it spills the results to the rows and columns below. Now there are loads more cool things filter can do, including just returning some of the columns or one column, which can then be nested inside other functions, etc. If you have Excel 2021 or 365, I encourage you to watch my comprehensive filter tutorial, linked to in the video description, because this is an incredibly useful function. The IFERROR function is handy for hiding error values returned by other formulas, or to return an alternate result other than an ugly error message. For example, here I have a VLOOKUP formula that's returning errors for Doug because he's not found in the commission rates table, which is the table being looked up. Now, instead of showing #NA in my report, I can wrap the VLOOKUP formula in IFERROR. So if I just go up to the formula bar, add it in, the value is the value returned by VLOOKUP, and the value IFERROR I want returned is just going to be the text missing. Close parentheses on IFERROR, and now instead of the error, I get missing. Now IFERROR can be used to hide any error. Alternatively, with NA errors like we have with VLOOKUP, I can replace IFERROR with the shorter IFNA function. It works exactly the same way, takes a value, and then if that value returns the NA error, you can insert some alternate text, or you could just return a blank as denoted by 2 double quotes. So you can see IFNA works in exactly the same way, but it's limited to those NA errors. Nearly everyone who uses Excel works with dates. And a super handy function is EOMONTH, short for end of month, which returns the last day of the month before or after a start date. For example, here I've got some dates, And if I want to find the end of the month based on this start date, and the number of months I want to extend by is this value here, so in this case 1 month, it's going to give me the 30th of April. So it's the end of month, 1 month after the current date. I'm going to right click and drag and then fill without formatting. So you can see here this date has taken it back 1 month earlier. This one has just found the end of the current month. It handles leap years and so on. Now, one thing to note here is if you enter a fraction of a month, so for example 1.5 months, you can see it just rounds it down to 1 month. So any fractions of months are ignored. Now, there's no start of month function, but you can also use end of month to find the start of the month. For example, here I found the end of the month previous to the current month. All I need to do is add 1, and now I get the start of the current month. The EDATE function rolls a date serial number forward or backward. Let's take a look. So here we've got the start date, which is this date here, and then the number of months. I'm going to use this cell here. So in this case, I'm adding a month. So it takes me forward to the 15th of April, which is 31 days. Let's right click and drag down fill without formatting. This has taken it back 1 month, forward 1 month. You can see leap years are handled without a problem, and so on. And again, if you enter a fraction of a month, it rounds it down to the nearest whole month. So in this example, it's only taking it forward 6 months, not 6.8. As a data analyst, you'll typically be working with dates a lot. The NETWORKDAYS.INTL Function returns the number of working days between 2 dates, excluding weekends and holidays. For example, we can calculate the number of work days between these start and end dates. We simply reference the dates, and I should point out that NETWORKDAYS.INTL is inclusive of the start and end dates. The next argument allows you to specify which days are included in the weekend. There's a ton to choose from, as you can see here. I've listed the different options in column D so you can see the effect, but you typically just choose one and hardkey it into the formula. So I'm referencing column D, and then for the holidays you can specify a list of dates that are holidays to exclude as well. It's optional, you don't have to list holidays. Close parentheses on network days, and you can see there are 20 working days between the 1st and 31st of January where your weekend is on a Saturday and Sunday. And I can copy that down. I'm just going to fill without formatting. You can see the results based on the different weekend types. Now, not many people know that you can also exclude other days from the work week by specifying them in an array where 0 is a work day and 1 is a non-work day. So let's reference these cells for our start and end dates, and then instead of picking from one of these numbers, I can reference this cell here which contains the string of work days. Here I want to count Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday as work days, and the rest are non-work days. We can also specify holidays, close parentheses, and you can see the results. We can also hardkey the work days in the formula, so let's just take a look at how we do that. So instead of referencing the cell, we're just going to type them in double quotes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are work days. Let's reference our holidays, close parentheses. We get the same result. The only difference is the work date string is inside the formula. And this is typically how you'd enter it. You wouldn't normally reference it in a cell. The GETPIVOTDATA function extracts values from pivot tables, and it will dynamically update even if the pivot table changes shape. It's super useful if you're building reports and you don't want a bulky pivot table taking up loads of space. For example, let's say I want to get the grand total for the USA. All I need to do is enter the equal sign and select the cell containing the grand total, and Excel even writes the formula for me. Now, the beauty of this is that if the column containing the USA grand total moves, for example, let's say I want it before the UK instead, I haven't had to change my formula. It's still picking up this value here. Similarly, if I add more data to the pivot table, let's add some data for 2010. Now the grand total's down here, it's correctly picking up the new grand total. The other thing I can do is make it dynamic by referencing any hard-keyed areas with a cell reference instead of that hard-keyed text. So here I can reference the cell containing the country name, and then because this is a data validation list, I can choose the UK and it updates to return the correct value. Now there's a lot more to GetPivotData that I cover in a comprehensive video, which you'll find linked to in the video description. So I encourage you to take a look at that, because using GetPivotData to build your reports is going to make them far more robust than regular cell references, particularly when referencing pivot tables. The unique function generates a list of distinct items from an array, or a list of items that only occur once. It's available in Excel 2021 onward, or with Microsoft 365. So for example, I can easily extract a list of distinct products from this column here. Now the last two arguments are optional. I don't need them in this case, so I'm just going to close parentheses. And you can see it spills the results to the cells below because it's a dynamic array. Alternatively, I can extract a list of unique items. That is a list of items that only occur once. So again, I'm going to select the products. This time I need to use my optional arguments. I don't need to use the by column. This simply allows you to compare values by row instead of the default by column. So we're going to skip that. And then the last argument, I need to specify true. I want to return items that appear exactly once. So tab to enter that, close parentheses, and you can see there's only one product that occurs once, and that's the product called Other. With Unique, you can also reference multiple columns. So for example, let's say I want to look at rows where product and quantity are distinct. Close parentheses, and you can see only 11 rows were returned. The sort function does what you'd expect, and it's available in Excel 2021 onward and Microsoft 365. So let's say I want to sort this data by item. So I'm going to select all of the data, and then the sort index, this is where I specify which column I want to sort by. So I want to sort by item, which is the second column, and then ascending or descending, we'll go with ascending, which is 1. And the last argument is whether I want to sort by column, which would be true, or by row, which is the default. So I could omit it or enter false. Let's enter false just for completeness. Press enter. You can see now my data is sorted based on the item column. I can also sort by multiple items. So selecting the table again, and then here in the sort index, I simply enter an array of column numbers surrounded by curly braces. And they don't have to be in order. So for example, I could sort by column 2 and then by column 1, or by column 1 and then by column 2, or by any of the other columns. And notice it's surrounded in curly braces. And then I can specify the sort order, so let's sort it in descending order. Close parentheses, and now we have our data sorted based on department, and then by item in descending order. The sequence function returns a list of sequential numbers in an array. Among other things, it will replace the need to use the row or column function to return an array of values for use nested inside other functions. It's available in Excel 2021 onward and 365. So let's take a look here, and let's say I want to return 5 rows. I want just one column. I want to start at 5 and step by 10. Close parentheses. And there's my list, 5, 15, 25, 35, 45. We can also create 2D arrays of numbers. So again, sequence. Here I want 3 rows, 2 columns. I'm going to start at 2 and step up by 2. Close parentheses. And you can see it flows left to right across the columns and then down onto the next row. Sequence also works great to generate a list of dates, and they can count down. For example, let's say I want a list of dates going across the rows. So I'll skip the first argument, and then I want 5 columns, and I want to start at January 31st. So I'm going to use the date function. So I want January 31st, 2023, close parentheses on date. And then I want to step down, so it's -1 by 1 day at a time. And there I have my 5 dates spilled across the columns, decreasing by 1 day at a time. There are loads more uses for the sequence function and the functions covered so far, so be sure to check out the file for this lesson available from the link in the video description for more examples. Okay, that covers the most important functions you need as a data analyst. Let's look at some functions that were included in some of the other lists I saw online that I didn't agree with. The trim function removes all spaces from a text string, except those between words. Now it's a data cleaning function, and all data cleaning tasks should now be done with Power Query because we can automate those laborious tasks, making it much more efficient. The len and isBlank functions are typically used to validate data, and this can also be automated with Power Query. Concat, or the older concatenate function, joins text together from multiple cells. Now we don't really need this function because we can simply join them together with the ampersand. So here I can reference two cells, put an ampersand in between, and it returns the text string ABC123. You can see the formula in column S. Alternatively, we could use Power Query to join text from multiple columns. The days function calculates the number of days between two dates, and this function also isn't required because subtracting one date from another date is as simple as referencing the cells and putting a minus sign between them. And there we get 5 days. And just to prove it, let's use the days function. So the end date and the start date, close parentheses, we get the same result. We can also do this in Power Query. As you've probably gathered, Power Query is also an essential tool for data analysts. If you'd like to learn more about Power Query, check out my introduction video and my course. There are links to both in the video description. And with that, I hope you found this tutorial useful. You can download the Excel file containing the examples for this lesson from the link here. And if you like this video, please give it the thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more. And why not share it with your friends who might also find it useful. Thanks for watching.